It's Kathy Clement, Kathy by Design. Welcome to Wonderful Wednesday on Thursday. Thanks so much for understanding my time crunch this week. I want to give you a little update. I'm doing so well. I've been cut back to just once a week at physical therapy. I had my final meeting with my surgeon, and he's very pleased with my progress, and I'm on track for a knee replacement surgery sometime late summer, early fall. But he did give me a cortisone shot in my knee that is bone on bone, and wow, what a difference it's made. I'm actually standing up to make this film, which is a first in many months. So that's the little update. But here is the project I promised to share with you today. This is one of my favorite things I've ever made, and I can see I need to raise up my camera a little bit. Let me try that and see. This is a wooden house that I found at Michael's. It's made by Ashland, and I think it's called House Cubby. I'm going to try to link to it for you because this is just so much fun to make. It's massive. This is really 12 by 12, actually 12 by probably about 14. And it's got these 3 really neat cubbies in it. And of course you could use this for home decor. I wanted to turn it into a mini album using Stamperia family. So we'll start up here at the attic, and I put our little reading mouse and a stack of books, a couple of little icons. And I don't know if you can see inside, but there's a window and the moon and the stars and some clouds. And then this is on the top of the house, so that's really cool. Then this long cubby, let me move this out of the way. I put this chipboard in the corner and this adhesive ephemera over here in this corner with a flower. And I made a little dimensional scene with our hot air balloon and some of the chipboard in the back, just to add some nice texture and contrast. And then I made this darling little, this is so tiny, it is so cute. Look, it fits in my hand. It is 4.5 by, I think, you just measure it. I've been working on it for a week. You would think I would know, but yeah, it's 4.5 by 4 and it has a 2-inch spine. And I built this from scratch, and this is the full tutorial for today. I'm going to show you how to build this little album from scratch, and we're actually going to do all the decorating and everything for one of them. The other one, you'll just have pictures. Down here in this corner, I created another little scene with our teacup full of roses, our little bird. This is a Tim Holtz door plate. Up here in the corner, I've got a book charm and a key charm that are so pretty when this is standing up. And down here in the bottom, I've got an identically sized and made little mini album. These are made just with cardstock, but honestly, I figured out this way to layer the cardstock so it feels like you're working with chipboard. I want to show you, I have to show you the roof. This is so cool. I textured this kind of brick red cardstock with a wood grain embossing folder, and then went over it with walnut stain ink. And then I punched it out with a circle punch. And then my husband, who was a roofing contractor for over 40 years, showed me how to layer, stagger the circles to create this sort of tile roof look. And then this little bit here is just a scrap from the paper collection that I used on the chimney. So that is this. Here's the side, where I just cut 12 by 12 papers to fit. Oh, I should tell you, first I painted everything. I painted it with this blue. This is actually a Deco Art paint. And then this is aged mahogany. That's my distress paint. So here's this little scene. And here's this little scene, our little reading buddy. But what I want to show you is on the back. And this is so fun. I created a little gatefold back here with a slider element to hold the gates closed. I was running out of 12-inch wide paper when I did this, so I had to go with a width of 9. And then I cut these panels from the 12 by 12 and trimmed them to a height of 9, scored 1/2 inch on the sides, and glued them back behind the inside panel to make this little gatefold feature. And up here in the attic is our little reading mouse. This is one of the punch outs from the junk journal, and I just put him sitting in the window. I just love that. These are some of my favorite scenes from the 12 by 12. And then on the inside, I had this great clothesline image, and I just added, I fussy cut this from the back of the 12 by 12 page, added some little stickers from the junk journal, the little banner across the top, and then I created 2 kinetic waterfalls on the flaps. And I've showed you lots of times how to do kinetic waterfalls. I'll try to link to one in the description box below, but these turned out so adorable, and you've got room for photos on each of the flaps. Look how cute. So darling. So this just makes this so fun, and you can turn it either direction. I think this would make great home decor, especially in a child's room with pictures maybe from their school year, or grandparents with pictures of their grandkids. I just love it. It's really, really a sweet collection. All right, I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to lower the camera. All right. And now we're going to take a look at these 2 little books. I'm going to show you how to make them, but we're just going to look at them first. This is the first one I made, and I layered up this chipboard piece with pop dots behind it so that I could layer it over this chipboard of our sweet little mouse. And here's a wooden cutout shape. I didn't put anything on the spine because these have to fit into the cubbies, and they just do. And here's the back cover. So these are very interactive. The front cover has a little pocket with a couple of cute little journal cards where you can do, they're blank on the back. I used the 8x8, single-faced and double-faced. I used the junk journal and the 12 by 12 double-faced, plus the chipboards, the adhesive ephemera, the colored wooden shapes, all of those things. So I used a graphic 45 ATC tag to create this fun little flap element. And here he is in his little frame. Here's another little bit here. And then this opens up and this flaps down, and you have room to put a photo on the inside. So that is really, really fun. It's just a fun little way to kick off the mini album with an interactive feature. And that kind of gives you a hint of what you're going to find on the inside. I will tell you, this is such an easy album base to build. I think you will be thrilled with how simple it is. And of course, once you learn how to do it, you can use it with whatever paper collection you have in your stash. So this page turns, and here we have a double tip-in. Room here for 2 photos. I couldn't bear to cover these guys up, so I put a little photo mat here, and you could also put another small photo here. And I just adhered along the edge to create this tuck spot for our photo mat. And this page turns, and we just have a double waterfall, super sweet, and little scenes back behind that. So you've got room for 6 more photos here. This flips over, and then we have a flip up page. There's a photo mat here. And again, you could put a photo here and journal up here, or you could just leave this as it is. And then this, of course, I had to do a pop-up. So here's pop-up number 1. And I'll show you how to do these. Not this specific one, but I'll show you the technique for doing these. And once you know how to do it, you just can do it. It's so easy. And then here's pop-up number 2. So these are darling, darling, darling little albums. Now, of course, if you didn't want the pop-up, you could just make this a photo display, and that would work too. So that's album number 1. This is album number 2. And this is the one we make together. So I'm just going to flip through this very quickly so that you can see how everything works. It's the same basic design. Super cute. Here's our little tip-up pages. And here's our pop-up pages. Okay, So if you want to learn how, now the tutorial, to be clear, is for making the album, not for doing the whole box. Like I said, it took me a whole week to do the box. But if you want to learn how to make these darling little albums, stick around because the tutorial is coming up next. I want to show you how to build these cute little albums that are going to fit in the bottom squares of this house. And these are 4.5 by 4 by 2. And inside I've got Kraft pages. And this may look a little intimidating, but it's actually quite simple. So I'm going to show you how to do it. You're going to start, this is 110 pound, actually I think this is 85 pound Kraft paper. And I've got an 11 by 4-inch piece. And I simply scored it at 4.5 and 6.5. And this is the cover. We're going to make a spine to go inside. And for this, I have an 8.5 by 4-inch piece. And we're going to score this 1 inch on each end. So we're going to go 7.5. And then I'm going to come back here and I'm going to score a 1/2 inch all the way down in between. Now we're going to crease every scored line well. Then you want to turn it and crease it in the other direction because you want these to fold, you want these to move nicely. And just so you know, you could use 65 pound for this and be fine. I like the 80 or the 85 pound because it's just a little more sturdy and I think it helps the book hold up better. So now that you've done that, it's going to look like this. You're going to skip this first 1/2 inch and pinch these two together, then skip one and pinch, skip one and pinch, skip one and pinch. All right, and you end up with 4 1/2 inch tabs, and that's going to fit your spine. You can use score tape to do this. I'm just going to bring in my dry as clear adhesive, and in the valley of each of these little pinched sections, you're going to put your adhesive. Now score tape will hold immediately, but this is quicker for the sake of a video because it takes longer to apply score tape than it does to apply this adhesive. So now you're just going to pinch these together, and we're going to have to use our bone folder to really make these stick. I'm just going to turn them. All right. So now we look like this. And you can see this is not hard. You can do this. So I like to fold them this way and crease, and then I like to fold them this way and crease. And now they turn nicely when you do this. And this is what the back looks like. So bring in your little cover, and you're going to put your adhesive here in the 2-inch spine area. Then you're going to line this 2-inch section here up with your spine. And the thing that's nice about using a liquid adhesive for this is that you have a little bit of wiggle room and you can shift things if needed. All right. So take your bone folder and go in between each of your tabs. All right. Just press them into place. Now you're going to come over here and you're going to put adhesive on this outer flap. And use your bone folder to press it into place. And then come over here to the other side. And you're going to put your adhesive here. And press this into place. Now we're going to turn it like this and we're going to fold on our score line on our cover and crease. And we're going to score over here. You want to turn your tabs going the other way so your book will fold. So now we look like this. All right, and here's our little tabs. Now I want to strengthen this cover. So I've cut 4.5 by 4. I've cut 4 of them. And I'm going to line these up with the outside edge. That looks really good. And you see how that covers up those little tabs that hold these into place, so it looks really good. Then we have another one to go on the other side. Do the same thing, line it up with your outside edge. Then we're going to flip this and we're going to do the front covers. Now, you can see I'm hanging over a little bit. This is not a problem. You just come in with your scissor and trim that so that everything is nice and neat and flush. Because here's the thing, when they cut papers, I've learned this, 8.5 by 11 doesn't always mean 8.5 by 11. Sometimes it's 8.5 or 8 and you know, there's an extra 16th hanging on it, or it's, you know, so sometimes you have to do a little trimming. This is going to strengthen these front covers, and when you have these 3 layers of cardstock down, you have a really, really sturdy little book. So this goes here. Make sure I'm doing the right side here, okay? Yeah, and this goes here. And again, we're just lining it up with that outside edge. Then for the pages, I cut 8 more 4.5 by 4 inch pieces. And we're going to glue these onto our little tabs. And one of the things I've learned with bookmaking is that your pages will turn a little more freely if you don't go all the way to the bottom of your score here. So just, I mean, you just need to give it a whisker of difference and it will do nicely. So press that, turn it, and this one goes on this side. So for here, you're going to put glue on your little tab, and you're also going to put glue on your page. So these are like double strength pages. And again, I like to line it up from that outside edge. So you're just going to continue to do that with the remaining 6. I cut 8 of these all together, and you've got your remaining 6, and you're just going to add these to your tabs just like we did here, and then your little book is made. So now that you've got your album made and strengthened with those extra panels, it's amazing how nice and strong this is. You're going to go into your stash and you're going to create 4 of these little liner panels. These are using colored cardstock that I felt like coordinated well. And the blue is 4 3/8 by 3 7/8. And then the red is 4 1/4 by 3 3/4, and just layer those together. And then what you're going to do, you also want to do your spine. And so for the spine, I do that first. This is 3 inches by 4 inches, and I scored well, actually it's 3 inches by 3 7/8 inches, and I scored this on the sides. And then the red piece is 3 1/8 by 3 3/4. So the blue is going to layer over, the red is going to layer over the blue like this. And the sides don't really matter that much. I just wanted to have the little bit of border showing on the top and bottom. So the first thing we're going to do is put our red down on the spine. And scoring those little 1/2 inch. The width of both of these is 3, because the width doesn't matter. But I wanted to be able, I wanted the Kraft to show and then the red to show. All right, and I'm going to actually lay this down flat, bring in my bone folder, and just press everything into place. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my blue. This we want to space. Again, the sides don't matter. Oh, I did that backwards. Well, fiddle-dee-dee. No worries. I'm lining up my scored lines. And I'm going to flip this the other direction and put this down. This is why I like to use dry as clear adhesive, because it's very forgiving. And I just want a little space top and bottom so that the blue shows, just like that. No harm done. And then I cut this little piece out of the patchwork. This is 1 7/8 by 3 5/8. And this is going to go in the center of our spine. And I think I want the dark on the top. It doesn't really matter though. Okay, these pieces are not even going to show. So you see how that really wasn't a problem. It's good for you to know that there's rarely a mistake that happens in the craft room that you can't fix, as long as you don't freak out. Just press this into place. And this book is getting nice and thick. All these layers of cardstock, even though it's not super heavy cardstock, it is creating nice, thick, almost like chipboard covers. Here goes our back cover. All right. Let me just use my bone folder to really seal our patterned paper down. And that looks really good, y'all. There we are. We're all set. All right. On the inside, we're going to do this on the inside cover, these same little panels. So you actually have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 layers of cardstock on your covers. And it's amazing how sturdy they feel when you get this all done. It's a wonderful little mini album. And then the back cover. I accidentally turned my lamp off there. They're very sensitive. All I did was toss down that paper towel and it turned off my lamp. All right, so now we're done with these. The next step we're going to do is bring in a little score tape, put it down in the center of your cover. You can lay your cover flat. It's a little bit easier to manage. And then this is, I don't know, it's probably about 14 inches of ribbon. This is old center stitch burlap from when I was on the Really Reasonable Ribbon design team. So that's going to go there. And then on the back, we're going to do the same thing. I like to take my ruler so that I'm at least somewhat close to being lined up straight. All right, and now we have our closure in place. So let me cut the pieces to do our cover and I'll be right back. Now we're going to do some work on the inside cover, and I went into my junk journal and I cut out this, I'm not sure what the size of it is, but it's one of the journal cards in there. It's about 5.5 by 3.5. So I want to show you a little trick I did. This is what I like to do. I trimmed this to 3 3/4. We want it to be 4. So I kept this part of it, and we're going to line this up. Do you see how that margin lines up now and it doesn't look awkward? This is a really good trick, and it's one that I like to use when I'm trying to make a piece fit where it doesn't really fit. So we just line this up, make sure your corners are lined up. And do you see that? It looks really good. So from our rub-on book, I've got this little balloon. I'm going to put it up here in this corner, and part of the side of it is going to be floating off, okay? And I got some of that stuck on my finger because I had glue on my finger, but it will be fine. I just wrapped that around to the back and then take this off. So there's our hot air balloon. I've also got this sweet little banner. Try not to get my fingers on the actual rub-on. They come off quite easily, so you just need to be careful when you're handling them. And I want this to go from corner to corner. And this is going to go inside our front cover like this. Then I cut this 5-inch, this is a scrap, it's about 1 7/8. I scored 1/2-inch flaps on the sides, and then I just took another little 1-inch scrap and folded it in half, and this is going to be the bottom of our pocket. So I'm going to glue this down. And I want to make sure that my fold is lined up right along the bottom, okay? Before I glue this onto the page, I'm going to take up just a piece of clear Scotch tape, and I'm going to put it along this ridge. Because you know how sometimes when you're trying to put something into a pocket and it catches on that ridge and it won't go all the way in? This will make it glide right over that gusset. It's just a really good little trick, and it just takes a second, and it makes a big difference in how well your pocket will work. I'm going to trim out my corners, fold in my flaps, just like this. So this is what it looks like on the back. I'm going to put adhesive on my gusset and on the sides. And then this is going to glue down just like this. Only straight. We like straight a lot around here. It's just hard to do. I've got this little chipboard piece with a hot air balloon on it. I thought it was a really perfect complement, so I'm going to glue this down in the one corner. And then you can just cut out some journal cards and stick them in the pocket. Okay? And then this goes inside the front cover. Just like that. Super cute. I want to go ahead and get to work on this little fun flap page. So I went into my 6x6. I'm running out of patterned, just plain patterned paper. This was actually a 6x6 card from the 12x12 paper. And I did my little trick where I trimmed it at 3 3/4, and then I joined the frame to make it look like one piece. So this is actually 4 inches by 6 inches, which is what we want. I need to cover up this little part right here. So I went into my scraps and cut a 3 1/4 by 1 3/4 inch piece of this patchwork paper. And we're just going to use that to cover up the image on the other side, because I had to cut through the image, which is always sad, but you know, sometimes you have to make You have to make sacrifices for art sometimes. So there's that. Here's my little ATC card, and I ran it through, just part of it, on a scrap of paper to cover the outside and the inside. And once I had my papers glued down, then I scored. It's just way easier that way than trying to score and then come back. So this is going to go back behind this flap like this. And I got ahead of myself with my score tape. I thought it was going to be all clever here, but we're going to actually have to glue this flap down behind. And now I'm going to need just another little piece of score tape. Right here on the top of my tag. All right. Okay, so I'm going to take my tape off the top, and I've got two pieces of ribbon. They're both about 12 inches long. I'm going to take this one and attach it here. I'm going to peel off this score tape, and I'm going to take this one and attach it down here. Now I'm going to add my adhesive. And we're actually going to glue this into the book. I'm just going to lift the flap so I can press this down well. So on the inside, so you've got this nice area here where you can put a photo, and you've got this area up here where you can add journaling. So you don't even have to cut a piece of cardstock to cover the inside this time. Your photo will just cover it, and this will act like a frame, which is really nice. Okay, I put a little bird right here. I'm going to find something to go there. I'm not sure what yet, but I just want to show you how to do this little closure. And I realize my ribbon is probably long, but I would always rather have my ribbon too long than too short. Too long, you can trim. Too short, you're out of luck. So I went into my junk journal book, and I found this sweet little mama mouse and her little baby mouse. Just going to ink up the top edge of this, and I took out this frame. Now this frame is oriented like this, but I'm going to use it like this because I can, and so can you. All right. I'm going to take Mama Mouse and Baby Mouse, and I'm going to put them through the inside like this. All right. I'm going to come in with my glue and press those 3 points into place. Then I'm going to take my scissor and just trim around this part that hangs out over the frame. And I'm going to put a little adhesive right here as well. So now we have this. It's fun. It kind of gives it a little 3D effect. And I'm going to put her right here on my tag. And that's sweet. Now I can bring my ribbon over, tie my bow, and we're all set. We just need something to go right here, and I'm not sure what that is, but you can look through your stash and find something, and I'll look through my stash. And between the two of us, we'll come up with something good. So it doesn't matter if you run the bottom through or the top through. The end result is the same. You just want to tie a bow. And that's your closure mechanism. And that's a really fun little interactive page. course, you have to trim your tails, save this ribbon, we'll find some good use for it, and you're all set. All right, friends, let's do these 2 flap pages. And I had to do these a little bit differently this time. I went into my 8x8 and I cut an 8 by 3 3/4 inch panel. And what you want to do is trim, so you'll have 2 4x4 panels, trim 1/4 inch off of this one. But I foolishly didn't do that. I did it wrong, but it's going to work out okay. Here on the inside, you've got room for 2 photos. So we're just going to go ahead and glue this down. You can see I added a little panel of my paper to make it fit. So we're going to be all right. I should have taken my lunch break. I was really hungry after physical therapy this morning. And I was like, I just want to finish this. And I should have just gone ahead and taken my lunch break. But anyway, sometimes, you know how they say you're not yourself when you're hungry? So this is from the 8x8 single-sided because I didn't have any more of the double. So I took this piece of blue gingham and I trimmed this to 3.5 by 3 3/4. I put a couple little stickers down here, and we're going to cover the white space with this. Okay, that fits perfectly. And then we're going to take our portrait of Grandpa Mouse. I guess he's very distinguished. We should probably call him Grandfather rather than Grandpa. So we'll call him Grandfather Mouse. And here's our stack of books with a teapot on it, teacup on it. And I put a couple of pop dots on the bottom. And we're going to line this up just like this, so it overhangs. So now you've got this really cute flip page with room for photos on the inside. On the right hand side, I did the same thing and I cut it wrong. This is the 8x8 single-sided. Again, you're going to cut it at 3 3/4 by 8. You're going to score here at 4, and then you're going to trim 1/4 inch off of here so that you don't end up with a big boo-boo like I did, but that's okay. And then this is going to go right here. Three and a half by 3 3/4 of the blue gingham on the flap. Then I've got this darling little mouse tag, and we're just going to put adhesive. Let me see. Hold on. I'm actually going to put the adhesive on the paper edge right here. And then I'm going to put this like this so it overlaps. And then what we have room to do is tuck a little photo mat in there. Okay, I'm not going to tuck it all the way in because I don't want it to get stuck in that wet glue, but that finishes that page. All right, friends, this next page set is the simple waterfall. And of course, your base page is the 4 1/4 by 3 3/4. And I've just cut these out of what I have left in my scraps. And then for your waterfalls, they are 3 by 3 3/4. And then your little images, you're going to cut these out of your pattern paper. These are 2.5 by 3 3/4 inches. And we'll go ahead and start putting these down. And I just realized I did them both going the same direction instead of one going one way, one going the other, but that's all right. We'll be okay. Let's Start this one right here. So with a basic waterfall, you've got a 1/2 inch scored, and you're just going to line this one up. See how I turned it behind? And I'm lining it up with the previous one. So here's that 1/2 inch score. Take this 1/2 inch score, fold it behind, put your adhesive down, and then line this up. And that is all there is to that. Then here on the back, we're going to take our darling little mouse. I cut her out of the 12 by 12. There's a fussy cut page, and I just fussy cut her out. You want to be careful with all of these different ones that you're putting in, because if you're going to put them in your little house, they cannot go above the top of the page, because it won't fit in the house if you do that. You get a little journaling spot right there. So there's that one. And then this one is also going to go this way. We've got our little reader mouse. And we're just going to install these the exact same way. And then this little guy with his bouquet is right here. So cute. And that's that double page spread. All right, friends, we're going to make our little flip pages. This was a challenge because I am out of just plain patterned paper. So what I did was I dug into these 6 by 6 images, and I trimmed them so they're 4 1/4 inches wide. And then I scored them from the bottom edge at 3 3/4 to make our flap. Because this image is so cute, I didn't want to cover it up with a photo mat. So I put gussets on the back, and we're going to glue this down, and this is going to be like a hidden pocket. Oops. Going to trim this real quick. Okay. All right, this is the very definition of a quick and easy page. I'm going to take Mr. and Mrs. Mouse. They're so cute. I'm just going to put adhesive on their heads. And I'm going to put them here on our little flap. Then I've cut a 3 3/4 by 3 3/4 inch piece of blue cardstock, and this is going to fit into our hidden pocket. I don't know why sometimes these are hard to open at the beginning, but once you get them open, you're fine. And that's going to slip in there, and I think we can take one of these little chipboard houses from the chipboard and put it right on the top like this. Oops. I'm going to let that dry, but then that will go in the pocket and you've got a little pull tab, okay? So same thing over here. So sometimes you just have to innovate. And this particular collection was really strong on images, but it didn't offer a ton of patterned paper. So that was a stretch for me. Now our little mouse, I think we're okay. I may have to just trim the bottom of her toe off. Okay, and that's the inside of this one. Yeah, I'm going to have to trim the top of her bouquet off, or the page won't open. Okay, now we're okay. And there he is in his cozy place. So you get to enjoy this, and then we'll put our little chipboard house here. And it will go in the little hidden pocket we made. But I'm going to let that glue set up. If you've ever glued a pocket page inside, then you know why I'm letting that dry. So I'm just going to set that aside. All right, the next thing we're going to do, flip this over, and these last two pages are going to be our pop-ups. And these are simpler pop-ups. There we go. And again, I had to get creative. I had to go into, well, first I had to cut my background papers, which are, of course, 4 1/4 by 3 3/4. And then I had to go into these 4 by 6 images, and I had to trim them to 4 by 4 1/4. And then I scored a 1/2 inch flap along the bottom. And you're actually putting this in sort of upside down, so that when your page flips, your flower is right side up. Does that make sense? I'll show you on the next one. So glue this in. So here's our base page. Here's our image. And I put the score line along the top so that when you put the flap behind and you flip this down, you're right side up. It doesn't really matter all that much because your pop-up boxes are going to cover up anyway, but a good bit of it anyway. Or you can just leave it like this and not do the pop-up. That's totally your call. If you want extra space for photos, you might not want to do the pop-up page. All right. So on the front of our little flaps, I put some stickers. This one is actually a fussy cut or a punch out, and I just glued her feet down. So you can actually tuck a photo in there, and you could do a little journaling here. These flaps come down. To cover up the magnets, I use stickers from the junk journal. Now we're going to add our pop-ups, and this is just scraps I found. These are about 2 5/8 by 3 1/4. I'm going to fold this in half. This is quick and easy, like when you have an odd measurement, so you don't have to drive yourself crazy figuring out how to do it in even fourths. So once you've folded it in half, fold the outside edges back toward that middle fold, and you will have your pop-up. I'll show you again. So fold it in half, and take this bottom edge and fold it back to the fold, and take this bottom edge and fold it back to the fold. Okay, and now you're just going to fold so it looks like this. You've got little flaps, like a little gatefold. So you're folding the outsides into the center. Bring in your score tape, and you're going to put your tape, or you can do wet adhesive. I'll show you both ways so that you can pick which way you want to do it. I'll do one with score tape and I'll do one with liquid adhesive. Both work really well. Okay, now fold it so that the folded edge is at the bottom and the open edge is at the top. Bring in your page, remove your tape, and you want to line this up. I'm going to come over here more toward the left, just below the score line, and press it into place. Then fold your flap up and there's your pop-up box. So if you want to do it with liquid adhesive, it's the same process. Just put the difference is this isn't going to catch immediately like that does, so you have to be a little bit patient with it. Oops. Also make sure you don't get any on the inside. All right. Then put your adhesive on the top. Fold it up. Press it into place. And there's your pop-up box. Okay? So we have 2 of these. Now we just have to find something to put on them. All right, guys, let's get this finished. I want to show you how to add a second pop-up box. But I cut out this little dude. He's so stinking cute. This is a really, really cute paper collection. It's what I call a happy paper. I just put some adhesive here, and I'm going to put him all the way over on the right-hand edge. And now I've got another little pop-up box. I'm going to line up right here with the first one. See what I mean by you have to be patient. It doesn't stick as quickly as the we're going to put his little book bag right here. Isn't that cute? All right, and then on the bottom, I think I'm going to take this off my magnet. And I'm going to glue this down on the bottom edge. I was going to have it open like a little book, but I added that extra pop-up box, so we needed to modify. All right. All right, so now I'm just going to let that rest a minute. We're going to come over here. And on our first pop-up, I've got this little, what I did was I took this stack of books from the Fussy Cut page, and I cut in between this blue book and this little book, and then I put the bird on the top here. This is going to be our background pop-up. And it's going to go all the way over on the left, like this. And then I cut out a little heart to fill in this corner. Well, I'm not going to worry about that. We'll just do like that. Make sure there's no adhesive over there. All right, then this one is only 1 inch wide. It's going to line up right here. Close it. There's our pop-up box. And now we're going to put our little reading mouse right here so he's in the front. Cute, right? That's adorable. The reason I'm taking the sticker off the magnet is that I don't want too many layers of paper between those magnets because it can make it hard for them to catch. There. All right, glue this down. Just like that. And there's our pop-up pages. These are stinking cute, y'all. Look how adorable. All right, so now we put our back cover on the back. And our front cover on the front. These are so cute. All right, friends, that's it for me for this week. I hope you enjoyed this little project as much as I enjoyed making it. It's one of the biggest things I've ever taken on, and I loved every minute. These little mice are just too adorable. You will find a linked supply list in the description box below this video, and I've also tagged items within the video. You just click on those tags and it will take you to a shopping site. I will put basic measurements for the little albums down in the description box below, so to make it a little easier for you if you want to make those. So that's it for me. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'll be back next week with one final Stamperia family project. I'm not sure what we're doing yet, but it'll be fun. All right, guys, thanks for joining me. Go get your craft on. Bye.